connection between our learning and Avodas Hashem. Does it affect us as people? Does it affect our relationship with the Avodah Shalom? Does it improve our tefillah, our davening? So this mini Yom Iyun is going to tackle that discussion from a few different angles. The last session we're going to have people talking about how they are working in the professional world and how they find time for their Avodas Hashem. But in order to get to that point, wanting to make that time in your day, in your schedule, right now, while you're learning here, filling up your tanks with all the Torah and King Yirbu, you have to already now ask yourself the question, what am I doing with this? How is this helping me improve, be a better person, and be a better Oved Hashem? So we have our Yeshiva, wonderful guest speakers and guest panel who are going to help us understand what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish here. Thank you.
In a sense, you should be having this Yom Iyun in a sense. B'ezras Hashem, you get married, or you, better yet, you will fall in love and get married. I hope when you go on a date, you won't talk to your prospective wife. What is the importance of love in a relationship, or what? In other words, you just actually experience, and you just enjoy her company, you just feel good being together, rather than think about having these philosophical discussions about the importance of love and relationships, etc., etc. My grandmother Alesha used to say, if you want to talk philosophy, go to Midrash. If you want to have a relationship, just experience. Just there's no point in asking, reflecting. Talk about parent-child relationships, I don't ask myself, why is it? What's the philosophical importance of hugging your child, or or benching him Friday night? You just do it because that is the relationship, and in a sense, right? This is what we want to arrive at Talmud Torah, that you just want to experience its importance. Now, of course, nevertheless, there's a need to talk at times because. Some things are less intuitive, and maybe and at the end of the day, al pi ha'yediah tiheh ahava, the Rambam says, the greater your knowledge, the deeper your knowledge, the better also the experience. And therefore, basically to appreciate what we're doing, if we reflect, engage in some reflection, hopefully it will also allow us to then experience better. So therefore, this Yom Iyun is very important and very crucial. Yishar koach to the organizers who've done it. Just one word of caution. Don't think that after you spend 3 hours listening to Nebuch, Rosh Yeshiva, and some important guests, that this will solve your problems. You did a workshop on Talmud Torah, and now you will take notes, or whatever they do nowadays, and you go back to the Midrash, and from tomorrow morning until today, you really didn't understand what's Avodas Hashem. Now you have all the answers in your Pinkas, or in your iPhone, or whatever. And from now on, you will be able to be Avodas Hashem. It's not a switch. This is not like learning. Even when you learn how to drive, you from theory to practice, or from the beginning to when you actually know how to drive, takes a while. And certainly in this, it's not going to happen overnight. So it's important to talk about this, but let your expectations be realistic. These issues of why am I learning and the like will. I assume that every so often, they will come up, and as I said before, pi ha'yediah tiheh ahava. The better you get at this, the more experienced you are, the more proficient you are, the more you enjoy the tzvara, it will also enhance the experience. But it's not, as I said before, it's not like you flip a switch and that's the end of that. Now I'll begin with the following observation. We talk about, Chazal tell us, Ulovdo b'chol levavchem. And you should worship the Kadosh Baruch Hu with your whole personality. Levavchem, by the way, may mean, I'll talk about that in a minute actually. B'chol levavchem, what's b'chol levavchem? So let's say, what's the ovdo? The ovdo zo tefillah. That's the Sifri, and that's the Gemara in Tanya Stuff Beis. Eiz avodah shebelev, every zo tefillah. So avodah shebelev means how do you connect with Kodesh Baruch Hu? How do you worship Him? Through tefillah. However, the Sifri also adds a second opinion, or a second drasha, which complements the first. Ula ovdo, b'chol levavchem, eiz avodah shebelev, zo Torah. So Torah and Tefillah are defined as avodah shebalev. This is how you connect to Kodesh Baruch Hu. In a sense, the same way you connect through Tefillah, you connect also through Torah. They're basically analogies. They go hand in hand. I'll say it differently. One is the intellectual, one is more the emotional, and one is the personality as it expresses itself through personality expresses itself through its emotions. The other through its intellect. What does it mean? B'chol levavchem, by the way, take a look at Ramban Ibn Ezra. Not pasuk. The pasuk of V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavecha. So one interpretation, b'chol levavchem means your intellect. Lev in Tanakh often means seichel. For instance, V'atan Hashem lachem lev ladat ve'oznaim lishmoa. Lev ladat means knowledge or intellect to know, to acquire knowledge. And another interpretation is that lev means your emotions. It doesn't really matter because the pasuk has b'chol levavchem u'b'chol nafshechem. So if lev means knowledge, so nefesh means emotions. If lev means emotions, nefesh means knowledge. Either way, we make sure to include both of them. Now, having said this, avodah shebalev is, and it says this drasha, or this duality of drashot, reflects exactly what I said a moment ago. One interpretation is tefillah, which is more the emotional part. The other is Torah, which is more the intellect. What's avodah shebalev? One option, one opportunity is through your intellect. The other is through your personality. Now here's the big paradox. Which is where we're going to start off from. Tefillah, it's very easy to understand why. I said, why pray? Why should I daven every day? The answer is very obvious. When you talk to God, we understand that, if there's a man-God relationship, so to express relationship, you talk. You address the Baruch Hu, you do shevach, bakasha, hoda, but relationships, we understand, should be expressed by addressing the other party. So it's almost self-evident why we pray. And prayer, of course, is universal. Every religion, in this form or another, prays. However, it's very difficult to pray. The technique, why, is very simple to explain. How is very difficult. And we all know that it's extremely complicated not to be distracted, to properly focus, to have concentration. When we love to tell a story, in the times of the Besh, to someone, they began a rumor and all kind of excitement. There's a new Rebbe, there's a new leader in those competition. Anyway, a new phenomenon has arisen and may become a Rebbe. So people ask the Besh, is he for real or not? So the answer was, ask him if he has a recipe to solve the problem of distractions in davening. Machshavot zarot and tefillah. If he has a recipe, he's fraud. And this is, so we all know that tefillah is easy to explain why, but to explain how. Talmud Torah is the reverse. Talmud Torah, relatively, it's not easy. Obviously it's not easy. Nevertheless, we have a whole methodology, and we know how to train people. It's intellectual discipline. Intellectual disciplines, we know how to train people. You come here, we give you a methodology share, we can train you. I go to my shir tomorrow morning, I ask so-and-so to read, and then ask him what his opinion is, and how he understands the Rabbeinu Yonah, and does he agree with Rabbeinu Yonah? There's a whole methodology to train people how to learn. On the other hand, why? That's much more difficult. It's very, to train someone in legal thinking, it's not easy, it's not a cup of tea, but it's doable. And we have the tools, and hopefully you came to this yeshiva, amongst others, because we believe we can train you to how to learn. But on the other hand, why to learn, it's very strange. And now, let me take a step backwards. Jewish philosophy, systematic Jewish philosophy, you could say, begins with Tzaddik. Right, Tanakh and Chazal, not quite systematic philosophy. After Tzaddik, who was like number 2 on the list, at least from those who come down to us, Rabbeinu Bachye. You're in a Musar book, but okay, it's philosophy of Musar. Read the introduction to Chovot Halevavot. In the introduction to Chovot Halevavot, which I didn't mean to quote here, it's a long quote also, but Rabbeinu Bachye says, why waste your time learning Iyun all day long? His whole point is to promote duties of the heart, or ethical and religious obligations. By religious obligation, he means in your heart. The devotees of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Avodas balev mamish. And in order to achieve that, he does something which maybe he shouldn't have, or at least is not so simple. In order to elevate the importance of Avodas balev, or what he calls Chovot Halevavot, he sort of like gives an elbow to Chovot to intellectual duties. In order to promote duties of the heart, duties of the mind, he sort of disparages quite considerably. And he says the following. I once heard a rumor that Reb Chaim claimed he was queer. I don't know. It sounds a bit far-fetched. But the very fact that there is such a rumor already tells you something about how extreme this opinion is, or this expression is. But Bachya says, why should you learn all day long Iyun? What you really need? What you really need is to do halach. You have to be obviously. You have to be an obedient Jew. You have to follow mitzvot Hashem. Now, for that, to give a working knowledge of halacha, you have to know all the shas. And he points out that let's like this, right? If a person gets married, so we teach him the basics of Taras HaMishpacha. So so a couple goes for a few sessions. They're taught the basics, what you call user end, what you have to know. You don't need smicha in Hilchos Nida in order to get married. You do need a few hours to spend learning the basics. The same is true if you get married. You want to know how to put a plata, or blech, whatever you want to put on Friday before Shabbos. So either you know what your parents did and you follow minhag, or you get a crash course. What's more, Mishnah Brura, Yishmat Shabbat Kilchata, any of these Shulchan Aruch demolishing kitzurim. What's more, it's not too difficult to give you the basics of how to put a plata. It can be done in say half an hour for the basic cases. Now, and so on and so forth. To explain, I'm sure you hear from Mordechai often, right? You don't say Almasechus Trumos in order to go and to figure out how to take Trumos and Maisos when you're in doubt. Right? He gives you an explanation. It takes a share, whatever, to explain how to be mafresh. If you have to teach Almasechus Trumos, we have to. In the Kol, it took us almost a year to take Trumos properly. And Rebbe says, so therefore. And if you have a mikre zara, a strange case, ask a shayla. For that we have rabbanim. So if you have plata, you have like happens in the yeshiva here every Shabbos that there's a problem, that the Shabbos clock doesn't go on. The Shabbos clocks are very independent, and so you have a problem. Ask a shayla, and etc. Now, let me. And the phrase is "V'imi valei sheila zara." So you have once probably every time you have a Shabbos. So ask HaRav. Let me put the question. What he's really asking is, why is Torah different? In every other discipline, this is exactly what we do. Right? We don't say everyone to medical school. We say everyone should have basic medical knowledge. If you should have the basics, to know what to do. If your kid has an ear infection, you should know what to do, and etc. But We train 5%, 10% of the population. We send them to medical school. They're the experts. And so if I have a common problem, so I probably know what to do, a minor common problem. But if it's something major, or it's something which is rare and not, it's not too common, so I pick up a phone and I ask a doctor. And I don't think that anything's wrong with me that I don't know all the knowledge that he picked up in medical school. And the same is true about the legal system. Everyone needs to know the basics, not to park when there's a policeman in front of you, you should know even without going to law school. But broadly speaking, besides the basics of how to, what's legal and illegal, besides when you meet on a day-to-day basis, so you don't you don't go to law school. If you have a problem, you consult with a lawyer, an accountant, whatever it is. If you have a tax problem, so you consult with an expert. And if you want to make a transaction, you hire a lawyer. In other words, just because once every 10 years I have a legal problem, I'm not going to go to law school. I'll pay whatever it pays to consult with a lawyer, and so on and so forth. And I continue giving you a list of every other. Only in Torah do we take everybody. We mobilize everyone, and we tell them to go an in-depth study. I mentioned this on Monday last week. We don't only do this, we just provide information. Basically the Western world is given up. We take every child almost, and we teach them ancient texts and the original. And it's a massive, think about it, it's a massive undertaking. You have to teach a person a language, and if we're talking about Bnei Chul, it's a foreign language. This is not even, it's not their mother tongue. The Israelis have that advantage. Even Israelis don't speak Aramaic in nursery school. So you have to teach someone a foreign tongue. You have to then have them study and analyze very complicated, intricate texts with hundreds of years of commentary written upon them. It's what we expect. With the equivalent of what any 18-year-old in this room is doing. Think of the equivalent. It's like it's like everyone here could read Homer in the Greek, and not only Homer, but he would introduce him to hundreds of years of Greek classical literature and follow-up and the like. The Western world gave up a long time ago. They gave up on this. We insist upon doing this. Now, why? But to go back to, and this is really what Rabbeinu Bachya is asking. Why should everyone be an expert in the field? Why should everyone go to in-depth learning? We'll give general knowledge, and it says, look at all the time that you will free up. All that time to be done into moral improvement, into ethics, and the like. And then he goes to Gemara Brachos. Because Gemara Brachos Daf, which of course he had to say Brachos to know in sense. But he goes to Gemara Brachos. The Gemara Brachos is as follows. How come Rishonim had Siyata Dishmaya? Rishonim in this case means the Tanakh had Siyata Dishmaya. And we have much less Siyata Dishmaya than they did. Even though our yeshivot are much better than their yeshivot. We study Mishneh of Yehuda, if I remember. We study Uktzin 13 times. In other words, then the Gan Shas, they study Ventairos, and at the end of the Shas, Uktzin means that you finish the Shas. They study the whole Shas, and however, our Tefillot, because Baruch doesn't really pay too much attention, and the Rishonim, even though they knew much less, because Baruch will answer their prayers immediately. So the Bible says, Rishonim Masri Nafshal T'Shat Hashem. They had more Mesiras Nefesh. We have less Mesiras Nefesh. Gemara Brachos Daf Chaf. Take a look what we're seeing afterwards. Now, in the Gemara, you just read the Gemara. It's Talmud Torah is important. Mesiras Nefesh is even more important. Rabbi Bachya says it. Talmud Torah is important. Mesiras Nefesh is important. Talmud Torah, esoteric learning to know all the Mishnas and Upsin is not important. And he continues along this line. He has very, very, very extreme formulations over there. But the problem he raises is real. And I mentioned before, he's this is literally the dawn of Jewish philosophy. Meaning, this is not some kind of question which is hundreds of years to figure out. It's there on the table immediately. What is, what in a sense is the answer? Or why do we rejected him? I can say clearly that in Kol HaKavod, Am Yisrael over the generation has rejected this advice. We've adopted a different position. The Gemara says in Yoma, Avraham Avinu is Zaken Yeshev Yeshiva, Yitzchak is Zaken Yeshev Yeshiva, Yaakov is Zaken Yeshev Yeshiva, and throughout the generations, the Yeshiva experience is essential to not our identity, to Avodas Hashem. It's literally essential to Avodas Hashem. And let me now skip forward a few hundred years. From Ben Bache, we'll go to Chaim Velosh. And obviously, the others, the other side of the fence is Chaim Veloshin. And Chaim Veloshin said, study Torah Lishma. Torah for the sake of Torah. And not everyone knows Torah Lishma, da 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 da. But why does he, if you look at Nefesh HaChaim, and why study Torah for its own sake? So he doesn't say because it's there. He says because of Dveikut. L'dovkabo. The Chaim is saying that this brings you to Dveikut. Now Dveikut is the ultimate religious goal. Certainly one of them. And he defined that. Now he defines, and he says, Talmud Torah to Dveikut. And then his whole point is, how do you achieve Dveikut? Through Torah Lishma. Not through Torah and in other forms, but only by studying Torah for its own sake. But that is not the end. The end really is Dveikut L'Kodesh Baruch Hu. So let me begin with so already I can say the following. Everybody agrees that the goal of Talmud Torah is Avodas Hashem. That what we're really seeking is not intellectual knowledge. At the end of the day, what really matters here is the experience. Or, no, I'll say like this. What matters is the knowledge and the experience. It's not the knowledge per se. Because acquiring the knowledge is part of Avodat Hashem. And Avodat Hashem expresses itself through Talmud Torah as well as Tefillah. Before I continue, I'll add the following point. I think it's important for us to recognize what we often don't see because of various cultural influences and the Romantic movement and others. Our personality expresses itself through its emotional side, but also through its intellect. Intellect is not simply, it's not we don't have a computer chip up in between our ears. It's not we want to amass knowledge. It's rather our intellect is part of personality. You express those by analyzing the world, by acquiring knowledge about the world. We then express ourselves the same way. Just to illustrate it, lo aleinu. If a person loses his knowledge, he loses his intellectual capabilities. Chas v'shalom has dementia. We feel that part of the personality is slipped away. We just feel it's a problem that we don't feel only that's a problem that he or she doesn't know, lacks knowledge. A person's confused about the day. We don't say, okay, so he doesn't know what day it is. No, we feel that the personality itself already cannot express itself properly, and we feel that part is slipped away. Because we feel that our personality is expressed by our intellect, and therefore it is a crucial part of who we are. It's not only a question of having a computer is simply a computer's knowledge. Artificial intelligence is artificial. Human intelligence is part of the human persona. It's part of personality. And therefore it's important that Avodat Hashem should not be only through our emotions, because the moment you do that, you've limited yourself to 50% of your personality. Your personality includes levavchem and nafshechem, and therefore you want both sides of your personality to embrace the Kadosh Baruch Hu. You want to embrace Him not only through your excitement and your energy and your emotions, you want to embrace the Kadosh Baruch Hu through the knowledge, and you want your personality to relate to Him and to reach out and seek Him through the personality as well. Now, how does Talmud Torah try to achieve this? Maybe I'll really drash you to get the point across. It also will illustrate or express the point I made before. It's a Midrash Vayikra Rabbah. Bichani de Tzipori Patar Kra Bitulit Shel Afar. Maybe I'll skip a bit further. Rabbi Levi, Mashal Traskal. No, the Mishnah is talking about a person who learns and forgets. He learns, the problem we all familiar with. You study, and then you come to Chazara, and you feel you don't remember, and you can't, and you're fumbling for the information. And basically we feel that we lomedu mishakeach. So the Medrash as follows. Rabbi Levi, Mashal Traskal Nakuv, Shesachar Ba'alav Po'alim Emaloto. You had, here it talks about Traskal, other means you talk about Dili. You have a bucket, which you want to fill with water, and it's full of holes. So what happens? Of course, all the water begins to escape, and you want to take the bucket from the ground floor to the third floor. By the time you get to the third floor, it's empty. Now I'll add, this is really more towards Chazara. It's not empty. In other words, sometimes you have a hole, so you arrive at the third floor, it's 60% full. So it's not full the way you filled it up, but not everything escaped either. But anyway, the Midrash we talk about a person lomedu mishakeach. Mashal misha tipesh ma omer mani mo'ir machlis bazeh motzi bazeh. The tipesh says what I'm doing is futile. What goes in here, it goes out there. That's why it enters here, it goes out there. It enters into the. I fill the bucket from the hose, and then all the water goes out through the hole. So Masha machnis bazeh, mutzi bazeh. Misha pikech ma omer, v'lo sachar kol chavit v'chavit ani notel. The wise person, what does he say? In the meantime, I'm being rewarded for schlepping the buckets. Or in a different midrash, in the meantime, the bucket is wet. In other words, even though you left out any water at the end, in the meantime, it was wet and damp, and so for that moment you enjoyed it. Kach mishu tipesh omer. Mani mo'il lilmod Torah u'meshakcha. Like, what's the point of learning? I forget everything anyways. Mishu pikech ma omer, v'lo sechar yigiyah Kadosh Baruch Hu noten. If Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't give you the sechar of the yigiyah, what does it mean? It means that the idea is not to. Now, obviously, if you need a Rav to pass on a shayla, you have an aguna. You have a very difficult shayla for Shabbos. You're not going to go to the person who's the lomedu mishakeach. The same way you won't go to a doctor who went to medical school and forgot everything. If you want to get a psak, a competent psak, you have to go to an expert. And an expert is someone who retains the knowledge and doesn't lose it. But that's not the point over here. The point is, we're not talking who's the ideal posek. We're just talking about what's the experience of learning. What the Medrash is saying is the experience per se matters. In the meantime, your neshama is wet, regardless of what you retain. Because the moment you're engaged in, think for a moment you go swimming on a cold day, swimming on a hot day. You go swimming on a sweltering day. Okay, 10 minutes you're out of the pool, out of the shower, so you're sweating again. But in the meantime, you enjoy the time you're in the pool. You had a great time. You really enjoyed it. And here's the point. Forget about what happens after. You may forget. Now, you're not even sweating, but forget, so you don't have the knowledge. But the experience was there. You connected to Kodesh Baruch Hu. the sense of knowing I was connected to Kadosh Baruch Hu when I was doing it remains with you. For instance, let's say, B'ezrat Hashem won't happen. Let's say you spend the whole year in Yeshiva, 10 years ago you don't remember Basra. So I could quote to you if you want to leave this source later on, all kinds of midrashim from Repelling and on, how severe an avera it is to forget Torah. That's of course only if you do it on purpose. For whatever reason, you're overwhelmed, you forget. I guarantee you still said a wonderful year in Yeshiva. Because you didn't come here in order to be a judge, to pass the Mosheh all day long. You came here to spend a year communing with Kadosh Baruch Hu. To spend a year of simply being B'trat Hashem Chefzo, B'torato Yegei Yomam V'Layla. And if you're coming here for smicha, so no. Then if you remember anything, a few years from now, we're in trouble. But if you come here, if you really come here to spend a year, simply immersed in Torah. And immersed in Torah means to be immersed in Kadosh Baruch Hu. And that's what Midrash is saying here. In the meantime, you have the experience. And now, unlike the example I gave before, when you sweat later on, even if you don't remember the knowledge, I guarantee you will remember the experience. In other words, a few years from now, you will still have the sense, I spent a wonderful year immersed in Torah. So you may not remember the Machus Torah ben Yonah and the Tosos about Cheskes Gimel Shanim, but I hope you do. But nevertheless, you will still remember that there was a wonderful experience to study Baba Basra when you were at this stage in your life. And this essentially is the point. I think I told this last year. I don't remember many years ago when I was in Shannon. Hey, a group of American tourists came, and Yonatan Shai wasn't here yet. A bit whiter than he is. I was asked to take a group of tourists to the Zat Nashim to explain to them. I go upstairs, a group of non-frum Jews from Denver, so I begin to try to explain to them it goes to maybe Midrash, when this guy, he must have been 75 or whatever, he jumps up and says, I'll explain. And he explains whatever he says, and then he says to me, he says to the people, the rest of the group, if you didn't experience it, you really can't know what it's all about. So I said to him, after he finished, and he got so excited about this, I said to him, I understand you have Yeshiva background. He said to me, yes. I went to 6th grade in Yeshiva, and so basically he left the days about the 6th grade, but 60 years later he still was talking about. I don't think it was from. 60 years later, he was still talking about what a wonderful experience. It was a defining religious experience for him. Deep down, he was from. Deep down, it was a defining religious experience, and he still spoke about the experience. Kal v'chom when you do it much more intensely and not only in 6th grade. Now, this really, in a sense, is the point. But however, now, let me explain. I'll explain in a moment how I think it works, or how I think Chaim Volozhin explains it. But before that, let me read you another Gemara, which Mital was very fond of quoting. It's about Eruvin. Bruria, Rabbi Meir's wife, Ashkachti Talmida Davikagadis Bilichisha. He was reading with his eyes, apparently. Well, Lichisha doesn't mean he was whispering, probably means he was just reading with his eyes. Bat Shabbat, she kicked him. Amrale, Lo Kach Katuv. Aren't we told in the Pasuk, Arucha Bakol Ushmara? This pasuk in Mishnah talking about Chazal Dach Talmud Torah. Arucha im arucha biramach evarim. If it's your entire being, if it's not just your mind amassing, absorbing knowledge, but rather it means you're experiencing it. You're really into it because your whole body is engaged. Mishtameret, v'ma not mishtameret. As you come, you're very adish, you're very cool, and all you want to do is just, I'll pick up information. That's the Talmud Torah. That's curiosity. Talmud Torah is arucha bakol, means your personality is engaged. when she talks about Ramach Evarim, it means your whole being is engaged in this. Talmud Torah, so therefore, basically she said, you're not learning, you're just satisfying your curiosity. So the first and most important condition is to come, A, from a sense of commitment, and B, to engage us, to realize it's your personality which is coming to the table. Not, as I said before, not the chip between your ears. It's your personality which has to be engaged. Tana, the Gemara continues, Talmid echad Rabbi Eliezer, she'esh shoneh belachash. What's more, belachash probably means he was just reading his eyes. Lachar shalosh shanim shachach talmudo. Because it's only information, if it's just curiosity, so sooner or later, yashan yipnei chadash tutziyu. The mind is you overwhelmed your storage capacity, so you forget. But if it's not not simply knowledge, and rather it's a deep commitment and experience, then you'll forget, because this is not knowledge, it's something much more important. And I'll already, in a sense, in one sentence say, I have the answer if you want for the panel later on. We don't have a panel. How do we take time off from my professional duties to daven? We assume that that's what your schedule is. Same way you want a panel, how do you take time from my professional duties to eat, or to shower, or to go to the bathroom? That's the way it is. The day has 24 hours. In these 24 hours, you have to take out certain things have to be set aside, regardless of how busy you are or how much pressure there is in the firm. You still have to eat. You still have to sleep an X amount. You still have to bathe. You still have to daven. If you're from Jew, davening is not something which, if you have time in your schedule. That's how you begin your day. You simply daven because this is what your day has been. And simply put, it's essential. It's a need in the same way eating is a need. You can't do without it. In the same way, personal hygiene is a need, and the same way sleep is a need, so too is connecting with Baruch Hu every morning. So the answer to the panel is Talmud Torah. If you like davening, the question is not if. The question is how. Then for that you need really the panelists to explain to you how. But if you view it as not discretionary time, or you view it simply as essential, it's a hechrach, you have to do it, so you'll do it. It's plain simple as that. Same way, I never worked in an American law firm, Baruch Hashem, but I was in the army. I spent some time in Tzahal, I was in Tiranut. In Tiranut, you never, right? And then I brush my teeth every day. I didn't say, I'm so lachutz, and then there's not enough time, I won't brush my teeth. So the same way, if you think brushing your teeth is important, so brushing your soul is important. And you do that with Talmud Torah. So therefore, this is a sense what it's all about. It's about recognizing that Talmud Torah is really part of your being. Okay, now, having said that, let me try to explain how this works, or at least why should this be like this. So for Chaim Velosh, talks about Ludovkab, it's Dveikut. And here I'll try to, I'll say three things, two of which are Dveikut. Before I get to Dveikut though, there's another reason to learn, but this is less crucial than what I'm talking about now. One reason to learn, part of our humanity, is that we're curious. As human beings, we're endowed with curiosity. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but part of being human is having a certain amount of basic curiosity. If you want, this is Sadat if you want. Now, we don't think everyone has to be an expert. Rabbeinu Bachya is right upon that. I don't think everyone has to be a doctor. I do think everyone needs a basic understanding of basic biology. In high school biology, we assume everyone has to know. It enhances your humanity. Now, if you, at the end of the day, yes, you are more of a human being if you don't, if you understand that when you put a piece of food into your mouth, you know the whole digestive tract and how the whole digestive system works. from the moment the food enters your mouth into how it's dispersed in the body and it's translated into energy, and how what you can't do anything with is then extracted and rejected. So you are, yes, you're more of a God, you're more of a human being. If you know this, if you just know, I don't know anything. I just know I put food and I go to the bathroom. And the same is true. Basic medical knowledge, basic curiosity, basic knowledge of civics. You don't have to be a lawyer, but you have to have basic civic knowledge. Why? Because this is the milieu we live in. We live in a world like this. Like basic knowledge about the world surrounding us. It's part of our humanity. If you are a frum Jew, your surrounding is halacha. Right? It's not just enough to know that the same way you want to have some basic understanding, some basic knowledge of all these other disciplines. I say, be it basic biology, medicine, be it basic civics, be it basic physics. So too, you have to have a basic working knowledge of the ABCs of halacha. This is simply part of the world surrounding you that you encounter every day. You know that you have to understand why it's Marcheshvan, or why a plot has to be done this way and not that way, etc. Now, I think this is an important reason. I think it's a religious. Let me be clear. It's a religious obligation to express our humanity properly. Because Baruch Hu created us b'tzalmo ki dmuto, b'tzelu ki barat ha'adam. To be a full-fledged man is a religious obligation. It's part of fulfilling Kadosh Baruch Hu's desire that the person should be as human as possible. And therefore, yes, secular knowledge has value, understanding the world around you, and religious knowledge, kal v'chomer. And part of being a mensch, so to speak, a mensch in the sense of being a man, a human, and it's full, who realizes his potential, is a religious value. But this, I'll put aside now, this is not the crucial point. The crucial point is l'dofkava. Now, what does dveikut mean? So if you're a mystic, and you're certainly a non-Jewish mystic, but mysticism basically, we think that dveikut is some form of union, some form or another. So of course in Judaism it's not quite a union, you only have dam v'chai, but nevertheless, like the mystics seem to come to approximate, to come as close as possible to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Mashal l'mahad davar domeh, to a child, a spouse. And we want to be as close as possible. And we want to hug and kiss our loved ones. So we try to come as near as possible. So there's a certain distance which you can't cross. It's true, but maybe also about children, parents, about spouses. I guess it's a different approaches to marriage. But even if you cannot, you try to come as near as possible. And the child wants to to understand, the 4-year-old, he wants to hug and kiss his parents and jump in their laps as much as possible. So this is a form of dveikut. And the mystic form of dveikut, you try to lose your personality in a sense, and to get this great, to be absorbed in this greater union, etc. In Chaim Voloshin's world, that's not what dveikut is. Dveikut in his world is not some kind of union, it's rather to be associated with. Dveikut means you identify with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, you're associated with his forces. And that's what dveikut is really all about. And now here, basically, I think Talmud Torah serves a dual role. On one level, it serves the first one. Not quite, so before you're only have Nam V'chai, there's a transcendental Rubicon between us and the Kadosh Baruch Hu. But nevertheless, it allows us to somewhat bridge the gap. I'll explain myself. We have problems connecting, not because what's the problem in a sense? The problem is because Baruch is transcendental. And if I want a relationship, you can't comprehend, you can't grasp because Baruch Hu is. So how do you reach out to him nevertheless? So we try to reach out when we can. So now let me give you an example. Mashal Madavar Domeh. A person has a parent, a grandparent who's no longer alive. So you feel very close. well, let me be clear, and I mention this often when I go to Yeshiva visits. Your relationship continues with your parent or your grandparent, even when he's not B'olam Hazeh. Mechabdo b'chayav, mechabdo achar moto. The relationship continues even beyond, even when there's no physical contact. The relationship continues. You continue to feel close, you continue to try to satisfy, you continue to try to listen and to follow and to continue the legacy. The connection remains. Just can't be physically expressed. So how do you nevertheless feel the relationship? So on one level, you know what the values were, you ask yourself, what would my parent have done in this situation? What would my grandparents have told me in these circumstances? Is this an expression of his values, etc.? On another level, you don't touch physical objects. I'll give you an example. Baruch Hashem, we have Bogrim in England and not only in the United States. We have Americans who go to England occasionally. A few years ago I was in England, and they arranged a tour in the Gniza in Cambridge. Over there they have, you can see, you actually see like the same, this sheet is here, or beside you go. The letters of Rabbi Levi. There's a letter of Rabbi Levi's handwriting, Rabbi Cairo's handwriting. It says about the Rambam. Now, Chazal say, no, don't be impressed. Enu sina fashot tzaddikim. Divrehem hem in zichronam. Never, don't erect monuments with tzaddikim. Just listen to the Torah. I guarantee you're overwhelmed with emotion. All of a sudden, Rabbi Cairo, who's simply, a person who's given so many opinions, I know his opinions, all of a sudden here he is, a piece of physically in front of you. So it's not, of course, the man, but he is. It's something, a physical object. Human beings relate to physical objects. You're overwhelmed with emotion. I remember this, you can see, I still remember this quite emotionally. The Ramban's seal. His seal was in the museum here about 20 years ago. And I say, it's a marvel, right? It overwhelms you. In the sense, now the same is true, obviously, that's the reason why people want Yerusha. Like, you want to use your grandfather's Kiddush cup or whatever. It's not because it's the nicest cup in town. It's because you can feel the continuity. You're touching out and reaching out to him. Now, Kosh Baruch, we don't have that. We try to do that in Sefer Torah. Part of the reason when you hug Sefer Torah, because this is like as close as you can get. This is Dvar Hashem, and it's like you have a precious letter from your parent, which you hold very, and you very. I have at home 2 copies of Shum Zechab and Bari Chelek Aleph. One with inscription from my wife, one with inscription from the Rav. You can imagine which one I use. I used one for my wife. Why? Because I don't care if the book will be torn or whatever, and she'll give me a new one. And the one for the Rav, I used to use it much more often, but I try not to use it too often. I'm afraid, it's priceless. It's too precious to, and I can't replace it. And my wife, I'll force her to write me another. So now, look, the Rav is his Torah, right? The Torah is the same in both books. In both volumes, it's the exact same Torah. But nevertheless, even though it's the exact same Torah, and what's wrong? What the Rav means to me is not 3 lines in a book. But it means something. It is meaningful. So we hug the sacred Torah. We feel this is Torah itself. Even if I couldn't have seen anything, you come and say, my grandfather was Shalom, not the Rav, my mother grandfather, Dr. Lichtenstein, and Sof Yamav, he was blind, and he was also hard of hearing, the same medical problem. He was very hard of hearing, yet he was also blind. He used to go to Mincha Ma'ariv, and he would stay for the Mishnah Berurah shir in between. And he wasn't a fool. He would say, I know that I won't be able really to get any knowledge out of this. I won't be able to follow. I can't see the text. I have trouble hearing the Magid Shir. And you would say, Lashevet in Yudim Shalomdim Torah. He just felt close. He just felt that Kosh Baruch Hu was there. Kosh Baruch Hu was present in the room, and that sense of connecting to Torah is there. Now, I think when we learn, this is probably what we're trying to do. Simply, this is Dvar Hashem. Or to put it differently, what many Baalei Machshava explain, Mor Nevuchim, Rav Kook, Ish HaHalacha, Kuzari, Midrash Rabbah. These are all what human beings are thinking about the Kosh Baruch Hu. And these are all what human beings think about Him, capital H. It's important, but it's not reaching out and touching Him. It's rather, it's the same way, if I'll give you descriptions, I'll give you a hesped about someone. I'll give you a hesped on Bes Yosef. I'll give you a shir about the Rish of Karas Derech HaLimud. I'll give you a hesped about the Rav. It will enlighten you, but you won't, if I tell a story, or if I show you the book with the inscription, or if I go to take the Gniza, I'll give you a piece of paper, you will suddenly feel connected. And this is what Torah, this is part of what Torah does to us. Simply reaching out and touching. Now, however, this is only part one. Part two, which is maybe the more important one, is what does it mean to be an Oved Hashem? What does Avodas Hashem mean? It means to serve Him, right? Avodah really means, it's from the root of Eved. Avodat Hashem, at the end of the day, I said worship before, but really, Avodat Hashem, it's not really worship. Avodat Hashem really is service. You serve God. You're an Oved Hashem, let's say Parsha for 20 seconds, in a sense, this is part of the transition from Noach to Avram Avinu. Noach obeys God. Noach follows what God tells him to do. Avram Avinu is Oved Hashem. He serves God. Now, what does it mean to serve? It means you want to work together to further His goals. It was, I am place myself at your disposal, and whatever you want, Hineni, right? That's the cry. Hineni, I will do what you tell me to do. I will go through and fulfill the mission you give me. And this is what Talmud Torah is. We have a basic principle in Yahadus. God handed over the world to man. God created the world, and now He handed over to man to improve upon it, to enhance it. And basically, once because Baruch Hu, He created the world, now He tells us improve it, develop it, like Uvda u'lishomra, and therefore we engage in science and technology, and it's a religious goal. Like the Rav writes about this in Lonely Man of Faith. Adam the first is a religious goal. To better the world, to be an engineer has religious value. Because you are shutaf l'maseh breshit. It means you work in tandem with Kadosh Baruch Hu to improve the world. It's true about medicine, it's true about technology, about engineering. It's true about all the social sciences that will improve society. It's true about Talmud Torah, first and foremost about Talmud Torah. There are many midrashim, which I have time to quote now, which talk about the godless of man because you have the Torah in your hand. It's like Yoho, there is an author or an artist, he's wearing a masterpiece, and he says now to his apprentice, continue. He takes his masterpiece and he allows the apprentice to continue and to actually fill in or contribute. Not more than that. It's like you have a president or whatever who allows the aide to direct the policy this way or that way. Because Baruch Hu gives us a mitzvah, and Rabbi Kiva Bishma, one can take it this way, one can take it that way. And you have so many machlokot which reveal different understandings, different conceptual understandings of a mitzvah. One Tana takes it here, one takes it there. And because Baruch Hu's fine with that. Like, he's giving you, it's like the parent in the family telling the kids to plan the vacation, to plan the trip, and wherever they want, and he will allow them to, now, it means in a sense, you're being entrusted, you associate, you're working for him. This is not simply knowledge. This is, you be Oved Hashem. You are now participating, and now this is an advanced degree. This is if you can, if I can make time, you make chidushim. But essentially, think for a moment about a slightly different model. It's really the same point, just maybe at a lower level. You have a senator, a Chaver Knesset, a cabinet member, who has aides, has legislative aides, has all kinds of aides, and he tells the aide to sit under discussions. He allows his advisors to sit under discussions. They contribute. Know that in the discussion they're on a par with him. When you come to the discussion, you don't say, "Oh, he's the minister, so therefore he talks and I don't." It's rather if you're a very junior aide and you're just beginning, you may feel overwhelmed. But as time goes on, you feel free. And if the minister is a good minister, or the senator is a good senator, he allows free expression. He's open to hearing all kinds of ideas. He tells you that your ideas were, if you have a good idea, he'll take it. And at some point, and even let you say, "Well, take the reins alone." But it begins with the fact that you sit together around the table and you dialogue, you converse, you're part of the discussion. And the crucial point here is that you're viewing the world now through his prism. When you sit as an advisor, you don't think I'm being legislated to. You think I'm the legislator. I'm the person. And I have to think through the spectacles of the legislator and not the spectacle of people who are being legislated to. So you become davek. You're associated because your perspective, because when you come to think about machlokas and babakam and babaso, you're thinking, how does the system want this to be? In other words, you're thinking from the Kodesh Baruch Hu's perspective. And this is what's called dvekut. You are a soldier, or you have a certain rank and position within Chovot. So it can begin with simply being together in the consultation, listening in and sitting at the table. At a later degree, you become, you become empowered, and you really work for him. You can become a high level, and then you can really work. But it's throughout the fact that you're privy to the discussions because Rabbi's table. And this is called dvekut. So at the end of the day, we argue about details. We argue about migo, we argue about trey, we argue about chesed gilul shalim. But all of this is translated. If you think, what does it really mean? It really means that the Torah has a concept of edus and a concept of toin v'nitan. Because Baruch Hu lets me be part of the discussion. He lets me be privy to his conversations. He let me make the chiddush. This is really what it's all about. This is the idea of the Uved Hashem and Dvekut. So if to summarize, what Talmud Torah is out to achieve, it's out to make you feel the Kodesh Baruch Hu's presence because you're here, because you feel this is His Torah. You feel He's in the room with you. Secondly, you feel that you touch out reaching. You come as close as possible. B'olam hazeh. But thirdly, also you're part of His team. You become a member of the team. This is that Avodas Hashem. I'll conclude with a famous passage, but well worth quoting because it really expresses what I'm trying to say. This is the Rebbe's most poetic. It's at the end of Bikashtem Nisham. Oreach kavu haya Rambam beveiteinu. Hayamim yimei slichad abamer shemosh asaba gon achasir v'yel Feinstein ish prujana Abba Hashem Etrabem Balayla. Now he describes here, it's a long quote, and I'll just, I'll read it and summarize it a bit. He describes he was a 5-year-old, and the Mosheh Soloveitchik would sit and give shir, and he describes how he would see the Rambam trying to fend off all of his attackers, and here I'll skip here a bit. Ulam nifraki lo tchufot, every so often, the Rambam was in bad luck, was out of luck. Oivav, in quotation marks, his opponents, hikifu mikol tzad, hakushot yukashot kibarzel, drav niflu mi'aba mari. They were extremely incomprehensible. Couldn't figure out what the Rambam wants. Abba mishtakebi, he would read, he would sit there and, and try and think, etc. And he describes with the eyes of wonder of a child. He went to his mother and said to his mother, the Rambam is losing, what can we do? It's a tragedy, the Rambam is busy, is losing the battle. Kids, so what really matters here is he sees the Rambam in the room. The Rambam is in the room. He feels the presence of the Rambam literally in the room. And then he adds, this is a childhood recollection. This is not, a childish imagination. This is not, neither is it a mystical experience. Okay, I'm skipping here a bit. So I walk to my study, or I walk to my shir, and I begin giving shir, I see at my table all of the Chachamei Masorah. Hayachas beinenu hu ishi, it's personal. The Rambam mimini, Rabbeinu Tam mismali, Rashi barosh, Rabbeinu Tam baksher, I'm going to say, HaRav is kulam echavir katan, they're all my study, yoshvim zilu shuchali, around my desk. Etc. It's a wonderful description. We have to add, of course, the final point, which he's clearly trying to make, though I'm not sure he mentions it here, is at the end of the day, who's really at the head of the table? Not the Rambam, not Rashi, not Rabbeinu Tam. It's the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Lichvodo ve'atzmo. What Pirkei Avot says, Afilu echad sheyoshev v'lomed shchina b'neihem. This is the goal. It's easy. I said before, it's easy to describe, to experience this. Don't have 50 people come tomorrow morning, but I don't feel exactly what you describe. But when you have children, you don't feel parenthood every day either. This, though, in a sense, is what we strive to experience. And this is the idea. Talmud Torah, at the end of the day, is Avodat Hashem. This is what the Medrash says. When it says the meantime, the bucket, you have a great experience. It's the experience of feeling Kadosh Baruch Hu. And the Hashem, the whole Korah, the whole Shei Krohu,